Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm George Abu Faisal, a sports presenter from Al Jazeera Sports. It's my pleasure to be your MC for today. Welcome to the start of a wonderful journey, a journey into the future to 2020, when we hope to celebrate the first Olympic and Paralympic Games in the Middle East here in Doha. The first step of this journey is the applicant file that we're revealing today. It outlines the details of our plans to host the Games. Our first speaker will be His Excellency Sheikh Saud bin Abdulrahman Al Thani. He is Secretary General of the Qatar Olympic Committee and Vice President of Doha 2020. Sheikh Saud will tell you about the vision driving Doha's bid. Then Mr. Fahad Jum'a, Deputy CEO of Doha 2020, will take you through some of the details that underpin that bid. To close, we'll hear from two Qatari athletes, 4 times Olympian Nasser Al Attiyah and Nada Aragji, the first woman in Qatar's national swimming team. But before we begin, let's look to a short film which captures the excitement around the bid since February 10th, when we unveiled our bid logo and slogan. It shows how in 3 days after that, we hand-delivered the applicant file to the International Olympic Committee in Lausanne. And it gives you a flavor of what happened on February 14th, when Qatar celebrated its first ever National Sports Day involving the whole country. So let's begin. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Excellency Sheikh Saud bin Abdulrahman Al Thani, Secretary General of the Qatar Olympic Committee and Vice President of Doha 2020.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Last week, we had the honor to lead the Doha 2020 delegation to the International Olympic Committee in Lausanne to present our applicant city file for hosting the 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Only a few of us flew out to Switzerland, but in spirit, many more people were with us to the journey. They include 82% of the people of Qatar, who before any promotion have already expressed their support for hosting the Games. The leader of every nation in the Gulf Cooperation Council, who unanimously voted in favor of bringing the Games to Doha. The members of every National Olympic Committee at the recent Arab Games, where a resolution was passed in support of Doha's bid. Clearly, hosting the Games in Doha is a widely shared dream throughout Qatar and across the wider region. And we are happy to say that Qatar Olympic Committee is also a proud member of the Olympic Council of Asia since 1981. Today, the Doha 2020 team will take you through the highlights of our applicant file and the hopes we have for the future. Over the next 30 minutes, we aim to give you the essence of 190-page file. By the time we have finished, we hope you will know more about our plans and our ambitions to become a candidate city. Ultimately, to host the Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2020. We hope you will agree that we are gathered in an appropriate venue to share our thoughts with you. This structure, the torch, and Aspire Zone symbolize our commitment to sport in general and to the Olympic values in particular. As many of you will recall, this building served as a beacon for the 2006 Asian Games. Since then, we have valued it as a legacy of that successful international competition. In 8 years' time, we hope to relight the flame of inspiration as we welcome to Doha the greatest competition of all, the Olympic and the Paralympic Games. We have already come a long way since we announced our intention to bid a few months ago. First credit for that goes to His Highness, the Emir, for his vision and love for sport. And to His Highness, the Heir Apparent, who chairs Doha 2020 bid and is president of the Qatar Olympic Committee. We are also grateful for the strong support we have received from the government ministers and officials and sport leaders through Qatar. We are grateful as well for backing from some of Qatar's leading private companies. Many of the key figures who have been involved are with us today. To all of you, our deepest thanks. Because with your help, we believe Doha is on a journey toward greater things than ever before. But what is behind this passion to host the Games? There is no denying the honor of staging the greatest sport event on earth and of being the focal point of a sporting world. But there is much more to our motivation than that. Our bid is all about legacy for our nation, the region, and the world. Let us start by talking about what is essential to any meaningful bid: vision. To host the Olympic and Paralympic Games is not only a great honor, it is an enormous responsibility. Doha is doing everything possible to deserve that honor. And we have the determination and the resources to meet every responsibility. What is more, the time is perfect. Both Qatar and the Middle East are changing. Only a few decades ago, Doha was a small city built on a heritage of a traditional business trade. Look at it today, and then consider what is possible for tomorrow. And look what is happening elsewhere in the Middle East. A new generation is making connection across national boundaries to share their hopes for a better future. Changing is in the air. And we see Doha 2020 as a way to help channel all the energy into change for the better. As Baron Pierre de Coubertin, founder of the modern Olympic Games, said, the Olympic movement gives the world an ideal which reckons with the reality of life and includes a possibility to guide this reality toward the great Olympic idea. Those words can be applied to the Middle East here and now, which is how we came to devise the phrase that summarized Doha 2020, inspiring change. This is true in many levels. The Games in Doha would help change the lifestyle of young people by encouraging a new interest in sport participations. The Games in Doha would provide greater empowerment for women and girls throughout sport. The Games in Doha would change the world's perception of the region and the region perception of the rest of the globe. And all of this is firmly rooted in the Olympics' values of respect, excellence, and friendships, which bring us to the image that we have chosen to represent Doha 2020, the nurturing tree. Local legend says that Doha was built around a huge tree, a tree that attracted and nurtured flocks of many different birds. The symbols of our past also represent the great new sustainable city we are building. Even now, Doha fully celebrates sport, recognizes its role in creating healthy lifestyle and positive social values. Much of our investment in terms of transport, accommodation, and other infrastructure is already underway as part of the wider Qatar National Vision 2030. But the benefit of our growth and our economy strength can and should go well beyond our nation and its capital. Hosting the Games here in 2020, the first Olympiad in the Middle East, would help build a better future for generations of girls and boys across many regions. Doha 2020 would also bring the Olympic movement a new potential for growth, both in sporting and commercial terms. And Doha 2020 would nurture the Games themselves throughout a changing region ready to be inspired by the Olympics values. And now, to tell you more about how we want to make this happen, I would like to introduce Fahad Jum'a, Doha 2020's Deputy CEO, Technical Bid and Project Management. He and his team were responsible for bringing together our applicant city file. Fahad, please.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard about the vision and the aspiration of Doha 2020. Now I'm delighted to go through some of the applicant file facts about delivering that vision. The reasons why our goal to host the 2020 Olympics and Paralympic Games in Doha is based on a solid foundation. Let's start with the most basic fact of all, the dates we have chosen for staging the Games. If we were to be successful, the Olympic Games opening ceremony would take place on October the 2nd. The Games would close on October the 18th. The opening ceremony of the Paralympic Games would be on November 4th. The closing ceremony would be on November 15th. This ensures ideal weather conditions for athletes, media, and spectators alike. And our geographical location is good for the Games. Our home audience would be drawn from a population expected to almost double to 3 million by 2020. By then, the population of the Middle East and North Africa, known as the MENA region, will be over 700 million. A total of 2.5 billion people are within 6 hours flying distance of Doha International Airport, already a global hub. Qatar Airways, the national carrier, currently links Doha to 115 international destinations. 90 new routes are being added this year. The new airport, opening at the end of this year, inshallah, will make flying into Qatar even easier. By 2017, it will handle 50 million passengers annually. When athletes, the Olympic family, media, and spectators arrive for Doha 2020, that will be an end to their traveling until it's time to go home. That's because we've kept distances and games travel time to a minimum. That's one of the most distinctive things about Doha 2020's Games plan. For example, based on current travel times, on average it would take an athlete only 21 minutes to get from the Olympic Village to his or her competition venue. And that includes football preliminaries. The same is true for travel time from the main media center. By 2020, with over 50 billion worth of planned and budgeted transport improvements in place, we will reduce travel times even further. Such compact and accessible games would benefit everyone. For the athletes, it means concentrating on competitive performance rather than travel logistics. For the spectators, it means the opportunity to enjoy more than one event a day in a vibrant Olympic atmosphere. And for the media, it means easily getting to the heart of story wherever it is happening. As for the even bigger audiences who stay at home, geography continues to be an advantage for Doha's bid. Our location allows for prime-time broadcasting to 3 billion people across Europe and the growth markets of Africa and Asia. Geography has also blessed Qatar in terms of national resources. On that solid foundation, we have built a thriving and diversified economy. That means we can guarantee delivery of everything that successful Olympic and Paralympic Games require in terms of facilities, infrastructure, and technology. This brings other benefit as well. Last year, Global Peace Index report ranked Qatar as one of the most peaceful countries in the world, ahead of places like Singapore and Switzerland. So Doha is certainly a safe and secure place, but also lively. Because Doha is the capital of a nation that's young as well as prosperous. Almost 75% of Qatar's population is under the age of 39. Per capita gross domestic product, GDP, is one of the highest in the world. Consequently, bringing the Games to Doha and the Middle East, with its growing population of young people, would open new and financially promising markets. Our country, Qatar, is growing. That growth is fully planned and derived from the Qatar National Vision 2030. It covers every aspect of our nation's development over the next 2 decades. And since sport is an integral part of Qatar's present and future, Vision 2030 fully underpins all of our plans for hosting the Games here in Qatar. This means all that we need to host Doha 2020 in terms of permanent venues and infrastructure already exists or is planned and fully budgeted for as part of our national plan for growth. This gives certainty to our delivery plans. Out of our 32 competition sites, 35% are existing venues. They will host 14 out of the 28 sports. Just over half, 56% of competition sites are already planned and budgeted for. This means that 91% of all sports venues are either existing or planned and budgeted for. The remaining 9% of sports venues will be temporary. You can see on our map of Doha 2020 the 5 sports zones. They are inspired by the 5 Olympic rings. Let's take a brief look at each one of them. You will find details of where each sports take place in the applicant file. Starting with the Games Center zone. In celebration of Olympic ideal, linking body and mind, we've located this at Qatar University. Its extensive campus will be the site of the Olympic Village, most of the athlete training sites, and the main media center. The Doha Olympic Park zone would be the setting for the opening and closing ceremonies, and a range of sports from archery to aquatics. The Aspire zone, where we are here today, would be the home of athletics, as well as boxing and water polo. The Education City zone would include equestrian and football preliminaries. The Water Park zone on the site of the current airport would be the place for sports such as marathon swimming and sailing. As far as tickets are concerned, affordability and inclusivity are key to our strategy. Over 3 million tickets would be priced at less than $25. Our games plan also includes 10 celebration sites throughout the city. These will bring together non-competing athletes, spectators, and their families who wants to join the greatest show on earth. And after a day full of watching world-class sports and celebrating life in a young and vibrant city, you would want a good night's sleep. Well, no problem. There will be 60,000 rooms available, from the most luxurious hotels, suites, and service apartments to comfortable accommodation at every price. Over 50,000 of these rooms will be within 15 kilometers of the majority of games venues. And now, for the key issue of legacy. Given the exact alignment between our games concept and Qatar National Vision 2030, part of our legacy will have a national focus. For example, development of the Olympic Park will mark the first phase of a much bigger green belt that will ultimately surround the city. At Qatar University, the Olympic Village will become new accommodation for students and academic staff, and the main media center will become a world-class technology center. But most of the legacy of Doha 2020 would have a wider regional and even global benefits. One of the most important Doha 2020 legacies would be the creation of a women's high-performance training center here in Doha. It would welcome women and girls from across the Arab world. Similarly, hosting the Paralympic Games in Doha would put a new emphasis on the benefits of inclusion throughout the region. So will the availability of a state-of-the-art training and competition facilities. For instance, the velodrome we are building will be the first in the Middle East to meet Olympic standards. Such tangible legacy is important. But the greatest legacy that a Doha Games can offer is intangible. Pierre de Coubertin expressed it perfectly when he said the Olympic Games will little by little dissipate the ignorance in which people live with respect to others. We are confident that Doha 2020 would advance that object. Here in the Middle East and around the world, we want to inspire change, create sporting and commercial opportunities for the Olympic movement, and build bridges of understanding between the region and the international community. That could be the greatest legacy of all of Doha 2020. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. To finish, we've asked the help of the most important people in any Olympic and Paralympic Games, the athletes. The first to speak will be someone who I know is familiar to all of you. Four-time Olympian and champion rally driver Nasser Al-Atiyah. Nasser competed in shooting events in Atlanta 1996, Sydney 2000, Athens 2004, and Beijing 2008, where he carried the Qatar team flag at the opening ceremony. He is also on his way to London. All the good luck. Nasser will give his speech in Arabic. So Nasser, please. Thank you very much.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شكرا فهد. أصحاب السعادة، السيدات والسادة، ضيوف الكرام. في يوم الاثنين الموافق 13 من فبراير الجاري تم بحمد الله تسليم ملف الدوحة لاستضافة أولمبياد 2020 إلى اللجنة الأولمبية الدولية سعياً لتصبح دولة قطر أول دولة تنظم الألعاب الأولمبية في الشرق الأوسط. وقد أسعدني أن أكون ضمن بعثة تسليم الملف التي يرأسها سعادة الشيخ سعود بن عبد الرحمن الثاني، أمين عام اللجنة الأولمبية القطرية ونائب رئيس مجلس إدارة الملف، برفقة عدد من الرياضيين القطريين. ومشاركتي في 4 دورات أولمبية سابقة جعلتني أكثر فهماً لما يحتاجها الرياضي من تنظيم دورات أولمبية مميزة. لذلك ليس لدي شك في أن دورات الألعاب الأولمبية 2020 في الدوحة ستكون مميزة وفوق التوقعات أيضاً. ذلك بفضل الفكر الاستراتيجي والرؤية المستقبلية لدولة قطر، حيث يهدف ملف الدوحة 2020 إلى خلق معايير جديدة للمدن المستضيفة للدورات الأولمبية اللاحقة من خلال تقليل التنقلات وتسهيل الوصول إلى مرافق التدريب. وفي أوقات الراحة سيحتاج اللاعبون والجماهير للاستمتاع بمدينة جميلة كمدينة الدوحة. فالعديد يشاركني هذا الحماس في إقامة دورة الألعاب الأولمبية في مدينة الدوحة لتكون لأول مرة في المنطقة. فقد لمست هذا الحماس في إخواني اللاعبين بحكم سفري المتكرر للمنافسات الشرق الأوسط، وكيف لا، وذلك سيفتح المجال لإعداد جيل جديد من الرياضيين في هذه المنطقة. لذلك أنا سعيد بالمساهمة في منح الفرصة للرياضيين لكي يعيشون حلم تنظيم دورات ألعاب أولمبية 2020 بمدينة الدوحة. فرحبوا معي باللاعبة ندى، أول سباحة بالمنتخب القطري والتي تمثل مستقبل الرياضة في دولة قطر. شكراً.
Thank you, Nasser. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, last year I competed in the Arab Games here in Doha, so I know how thrilling it is to perform before a home crowd. That thought kept going through my mind in Lausanne last week and made me dare to dream about competing here in Doha in 2020. I'll be 25 then, but even now at the age of 17, sports has already changed my life. The prospect of the Olympic and Paralympic Games coming to Doha would inspire many younger people like me to take up the sport, to know the thrill of the competition, to become more than they ever thought they could be. That's what Doha 2020 means to me and my generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nada, for speaking on behalf of an entire generation here and throughout the region that's already inspired by the host of the games here in Doha. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. That's the end of our presentation and hopefully the start of our Olympic dream. Before closing, I would like to ask our 4 speakers with the bid book here on the stage for the official photograph. Thank you.